Veganism kills more animals than eating meat? Sounds crazy, right? The reality is the plant-based movement has a hidden cost, one that most people never think about. The truth is more complicated than just meat is bad and plants are good. And today we're breaking it all down. Ethically, scientifically, and logically. So buckle up and fasten your seatbelt, because this might change how you view food forever. Now, am I an environmental scientist? Whatever that is. No, I'm not. But I used to study sciences before entering med school, and it's a big passion of mine. I also got the chance to speak with professors at the highest level of teaching environmental biology and ecosystems. And the most important one, I'm a person with common sense. And when I hear something like the prompt that characterizes the vegan movement that eating meat kills a lot of animals and this is bad, as a thinker, I am required to investigate that. And what I have found is that, yes, of course, eating meat does kill animals because you eat these animals. But eating avocados and oat milk and your beloved soy actually kills more animals than eating meat exclusively. Now, you're probably thinking, what the f? But let me make my point. Industrial farming used for the production of vegan products doesn't just provide plant foods. It wipes out entire ecosystems, kills rodents, birds, insects, and even larger animals in the process. How cute does this rabbit look? Well, it's a bad thing then that it's gonna have its throat cut by a huge machine which creates monocrops. Today, we are breaking down the shocking truth about what happens behind the scenes in plant agriculture. Let me also mention that this video is not focused on the nutritional aspect of which diet is best. The carnivore diet, the keto diet, the vegan diet. I will analyze this in a future video, so don't forget to subscribe if you're interested in all of this type of content. In this video, I will investigate specifically the ethical side and the environmental side. Let's get one thing straight before we begin. I'm not saying that eating meat is guilt-free. There are a lot of problems when it comes to animal farming. And during this video, you will listen to my criticisms about that too. This video isn't about demonizing vegans or glorifying meat eaters and carnivores. It's about looking at the bigger picture and, as always in this channel, investigating the science. Problem 1 of veganism: habitat destruction and the true cost of monocropping. To meet the demands of plant-based diets, vast tracts of land are converted to monocrops, like soy, wheat, and corn. This means having to grow only a single type of plant while neglecting the rest. This process involves clearing forests, wetlands, and grasslands, resulting in the loss of biodiversity and the death of countless animals who live there. And as you can understand, the company which does this does not knock on the home of the squirrel to ask him to move out. They just clear the entire forest, and whatever animal lives there gets wiped out too. Very ethical. For instance, in Brazil, in the Amazon rainforest, a critical biodiversity hotspot, it is being cleared to make way for soy plantations. Research indicates that continued yields in soy production could lead to a conversion of an additional 5.7 million hectares of forests and savannas within just over the next 15 years. And aren't the vegans the ones who demonize cows farting, leading to an excess of carbon dioxide? This will release approximately 1,955 megatons of carbon dioxide. Vegans do make the argument all the time that agriculture in meat leads to higher carbon dioxide. Well, what about the agriculture that you do? This deforestation in the Amazon not only displaces wildlife but also destroys entire ecosystems, leading to the death of numerous species which rely on these habitats. Problem 2 with veganism is the harvesting, the unseen casualties. Beyond habitat destruction when making vegan products, The harvesting process of these monoculture farms results in the process of many deaths of small animals. But how does making a vegan product result to animal deaths, you might say? Which is kind of paradoxical and ironic, since the whole vegan movement has its foundations on the premise that no animals have to die for us to eat. Well, to harvest crops, we need large-scale harvesting equipment, which looks like that. This monstrous machine can inadvertently kill animals such as rodents, rabbits, and ground-nesting birds that occupy these fields. And we're talking about a significant number of deaths, which is very difficult to determine because nobody will go to the scene afterwards to count how many rabbits died. But as you can understand, we are talking about the tens and hundreds of thousands. Argument 3 against veganism as an ethical solution to eating meat. Pesticides. Pesticide use is another problem of veganism. The use of pesticides in plant-based farming aims to protect the plants from different insects which will consume them and ruin the agriculture. But it has broader ecological consequences. Pesticides are toxic chemicals, especially to such small organisms like the animals and insects which live in these crops. Pesticides cannot discriminate between harmful pests and beneficial insects like butterflies and bees. So as a result, the pesticides kill all insects. There is very credible research to show pesticide exposure significantly impairs bee populations and reproduction. Specifically, a study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that bees which were exposed to these pesticides over just 2 consecutive years experienced a 4-fold reduction in bee population. In terms of numbers, these can be ballparked into the 20 to 40 billion bees dying every year, all to create the precious almond milk and soy burgers, which, by the way, completely suck. I don't know how you can like them.
This whole thing is disgusting.
Now, the thing is, insects like bees don't just go bzzz, they support the entire ecosystem we live in. This decline in pollinators can disrupt the entire environment and ecosystem, leading to even further animal deaths and reduced biodiversity. Now, let's actually give some credit and change to the case of regenerative farming and ethical meat production. Most people think of meat production happening in a factory where animals experience cruelty. And yes, it is a disaster. But that's not the only way to raise animals. So what is regenerative farming? It is a sustainable approach that mimics natural ecosystems. Instead of clearing forests or confining animals in industrial feedlots, cattle graze on land that wouldn't be used for monocrops anyways. As you have understood so far, I'm not the biggest fan and supporter of veganism, neither from the ethical and environmental side or from the nutritional side.
Don't say that.
However, I oppose equally the terrible ways in which we produce meat. Personally, I buy free-range organic meat, both for health reasons and environmental concerns. And to know that animals were at least free to run wherever they wanted and weren't locked in a cage. I do a lot of research for the products I buy to make sure this is actually the case. But these products actually cost tons of money more. And neither me or you should be obligated to pay these amounts of money for products that should have been produced in this way anyways. It's very funny how the government will regulate anything except these, which could also be one of the easiest things to regulate. So let's talk about deaths per calorie. Which is more bad, eating meat or plants? It's very easy for somebody who is vegan to turn to you if he's next to you and look at you with judgment if you're eating meat, because that meant that an animal had to die for you to eat. But vegans should try to think a little deeper before announcing their fake moral superiority. In a regenerative livestock farm, one grass-fed cow can provide hundreds of meals and also live for tons of years before dying. In contrast, monocrop farms kill thousands of small animals per year to provide the same amount of animal deaths per calorie when consuming soy or wheat. Let's talk about land use efficiency. Meat production preserves more biodiversity than vegan product agriculture. How much space do we need to produce animal foods versus plant foods? It is pretty clear that about 2/3 of all agricultural land is unsuitable for crops. These areas, like hills, can only be used for grazing livestock. When cattle are grazed in rotational grazing systems, they support biodiversity rather than destroy it. Unlike monocrop farms for vegan products, which wipe out entire ecosystems. So finally, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. If neither full veganism or industrial food production in animal products is the solution, then what is the solution? How can we eat in a way which is both ethical and sustainable? Instead of factory-farmed meat, the solution would be regenerative agriculture. Whether this is plant-based or meat-based. The goal should be minimizing waste, supporting ethical farming, and reducing the reliance on monocrop farming. So what can you do about that this time that we're speaking? Actually, I'm speaking, and I tend to speak a lot, so thank you for staying up to here in this video. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. But what are some practical takeaways for healthy and ethical eating? The first thing is to support local pasture-raised animal products. Find specific regenerative farms in your area and specifically get your meat from these sources. The second thing is to diversify your plant foods. Stop relying only on soy, which was produced from monocrops. A big one is reduce waste. I want you to think of this question. How much food do you waste all the time because either it went bad and passed its expiration date before you go to cook it, or because you were too full and you forgot to put it in the freezer and it went bad so you threw it away? Take more responsibility in that. Eating animals might be better than vegan products in terms of how many animals are being killed, but you're still eating an animal which gave its life for you to eat it. At least treat the food with respect and don't throw it out. If we really want an ethical food system, then we need to move past the black and white thinking of veganism versus carnivore. And we need to start looking at sustainability as a whole. Eat ethically and healthy until the next one.